Hello and welcome back. My name is Seth. Thanks for watching my videos on YouTube at How I Think. So in this video, I am going to show you how to set up an ASA 5510, the adaptive security appliance from Cisco, the 5510 platform. In my previous videos, I've shown you how to set up the 5505. This is the 5510. So if you notice, we're already logged into our switch. Enter the enable mode, and I can tell because there is a number sign. So here I'm going to type show version, and it is going to show me that we are using the 8.4.3 version. My previous videos, the 5505 was using the 8.2. Well, starting with 8.3 and onwards, I believe they're up to 9 now, Cisco made a significant change in how the nets are done. If we bring over the ASDM real quickly, you'll see that nothing really has changed from the ASDM perspective, just minor changes, but it's still pretty much the same. So you have your configuration, interface. This is where you specify your interfaces. Your routing, this is where you specify your static routes. OSPF, RIP, so on and so forth. Firewall, this is where you specify your access rules and your net objects, or your net rules. If you remember in the previous my previous videos on how to set up 5505, in the 8.2 version there was a dynamic net already created for us that was given to us by default. In the new version, in the 8.4 and above, through 8.3 and above, you're not giving any net whatsoever. So if you want everybody on the inside to go out to the internet, you would have to create a net rule yourself. Okay, so back to the firewall. So if I need to configure this firewall from the ground up, there's certain things I would need to do. So if I type in show IP interface brief exclude on show interface IP brief, it tells us all the interfaces and the IP addresses assigned to them. So let's assume that this is a brand new firewall and we need to default it. So we're going to type in config and type config factory default and then hit enter, and this is going to put the switch into default mode. It erases everything off of it. Okay, now that it's done, we're going to save it. If I switch over to my ASDM and refresh this, you'll notice that this will have nothing on it. All these objects will disappear. There we go. That's fine. See, there's absolutely nothing on it. It's completely default. So we're going to go ahead and set this up. We can use the ASDM or we can use the CLI. We'll go back and forth between the two. Okay, so to start off with, I am going to config mode, and we're going to go into interface Ethernet 0/0. This is the outside interface. Okay, we're going to type in name if. We're going to give it a name called outside. And by default, it sets the security level to 0. And then we're going to type in the IP. And we can give it our outside IP address. Followed by the subnet mask. Alright, now we can go into, now we're done with setting up the outside interface. If I type show interface IP brief, and the IP address is there. Now we're going to go ahead and set up interface 1. And we're going to call this one inside, and by default the inside security level is set to 100. That means everything on the inside is trusted and everything on the outside is not. Okay, so at this point we're pretty much done. There we go. We have our outside and our inside set up. So if we jump over to our ASDM and I go into configuration, device setup, interface, and if I refresh this, you'll see the name for the interface, security level, and the IP address should populate. There we go. Okay, if you notice the state is set to disable, well, I forgot to enable that. So we'll come back here, config, interface, Ethernet 0/0, no shut. And if I refresh this, this should turn to enabled. And it's refreshing now. And there we go, set to enable. Alternatively, I can just go ahead and double click this and click on enable interface and click OK. Like I said, I'm going to show you both ways. So we're going to save this, and this should save our configuration for us. Alright, so if we come over to show interface IP brief, so now that we set up our outside, our inside, we need to set up our static route. Well, how do we do that? So for that, we go into config mode and we type route outside. How is everything on the inside on this from this firewall? How is it going to go? What route is it going to take? Well, your ISP should, every ISP has a gateway. Well, we have to specify this gateway. We type in route outside 0/0/0/0/0/0, and we type in the gateway. So if we type in show IP route, show route. Now our gateway of last resort is 12.12.12.1 on this ASA. That means we'll be able to go out to the internet now. Okay, if you go over to the ASDM and the configuration and the routing, static route, If I hit refresh, this should put that route here for us. There we go. Firewall. Here we're going to set up our objects. Now objects we can set up two ways, one from the CLI or ASDM. And to do it from the ASDM, we'll come down here, click on network objects, and these are the network objects created for us by default. To create a network object, we click on add network object. Here we call it a name. So in this case, we want everybody on the inside to be able to go out to the internet. So I can call it object 0.0.0.0. Okay. Zero and 0. Okay, so we set up our network object. Once we set up the network object, then you have to specify what you want to do with this object. Well, in our case, with the previous version of ASA, the 8.2, there was a default dynamic NAT provided to us. Well, in this newer version, we don't have that. We have to set it up ourselves. So in order to do that, we have to we can either set it up through here at network object, and we'll go through this a little bit and I'll show you, or we can come through the CLI, go to config mode, and I can type in show run include object, include object, and this is our object right here. So we're going to copy this. Now we're in this object. All I did was copy and pasted it here. Now we're in the object. Here we have to specify what we want to do with this. Well, we want to go to the internet. So how would we do that? So for that we have to type NAT inside outside dynamic. If I hit question mark, we have these options available to us. Well, we want dynamic interface. It says use interface address as mapped IP. I'm going to type interface. Here I hit enter. Okay, so now if we hit refresh, we should see our dynamic NAT that we created. There we go. So if I move this over, we have a dynamic NAT to the outside interface. Preferably what you want to do is set up NATs based off of dynamic NATs based off of the VLANs or the IP address for that, for a specific location. For security reason, you don't want anybody just plugging in and be able to go out. Say there's a certain VLAN you don't want internet accessed. Well, if you do this 0000, then everybody will be able to go out. But if you do, for example, say object 10.10. Say there is a VLAN 10.20.30.0, 10.20.30.0. Down here, we're going to click on dynamic path. It's going to be translated to the outside interface and click on advanced, and then it's inside, outside. There you go. So now if I come here and say show run include, refresh this, you can see, if you can see that it created the 10, 20, 30, 0 object. So our 0, 0, 0 object that we created, and then a 10, 20, 30 object. So this is how you would create dynamic PAT or dynamic NAT statements in the new 8.4.